Hey you, this is A Wizard of Earthsea, Chapter 3, Part 4, the last sentence. At that, Jed turned as if he had been slapped and took a step towards Jasper. But the older boy smiled as if he had not intended any insult, nodded his head in his stiff, graceful way, and went on. Standing there with rage in his heart, looking after Jasper, Jed swore to himself to outdo his rival, and not in some mere illusion match, but in a test of power. He would prove himself and humiliate Jasper. He would not let the fellow stand there looking down at him, graceful, disdainful, hateful. Jed did not stop to think why Jasper might hate him. He only knew why he hated Jasper. The other apprentices had soon learned they could seldom match themselves against Jed, either in sport or in earnest, and they said of him, some in praise and some in spite, "He's a wizard born. He'll never let you beat him." Jasper alone neither praised him nor avoided him, but simply looked down at him, smiling slightly. And therefore Jasper stood alone as his rival, who must be put to shame. He did not see, or would not see, that in this rivalry which he clung to and fostered as part of his own pride, there was anything of the danger, the darkness, of which the master hand had mildly warned him. When he was not moved by pure rage, he knew very well that he was as yet no match for Jasper or any of the older boys, and so he kept at his work and went on as usual. At the end of the summer, the work was slackened somewhat, so there was more time for sport. Spellboat races down in the harbor, feats of illusion in the courts of the great house, and in the long evenings, in the groves, wild games of hide and seek, where hiders and seeker were both invisible, and only voices moved laughing and calling among the trees, following and dodging the quick, faint weir-lights. Then, as autumn came, they set to their tasks afresh, practicing new magic. Jed's first months at Roke went by fast, full of passions and wonders. In the winter, it was different. He was sent with 7 other boys across Roke Island to the farthest northmost cape, where stands the Icelet Tower. There, by himself, lived the master Namer, who was called by a name that had no meaning in any language, Curum Carmaruk. No farm or dwelling lay within miles of the tower. Grim it stood above the northern cliffs. Gray were the clouds over the seas of winter. Endless the lists and ranks and rounds of names that the Namer's 8 pupils must learn. Amongst them, in the tower's high room, Curum Carmaruk sat on a high seat, writing down lists of names that must be learned before the ink faded at midnight, leaving the parchment blank again. It was cold and half dark, and always silent there, except for the scratching of the master's pen, and the sighing, maybe, of a student who must learn before midnight the name of every cape, point, bay, sound, inlet, channel, harbor, shallows, reef, and rock of the shores of Lasso, a little islet of the Pelnish Sea. If the student complained, the master might say nothing, but lengthen the list. Or he might say, "He who would be sea master must know the true name of every drop of water in the sea." Jed sighed sometimes, but he did not complain. He saw that in this dusty, fathomless matter of learning the true name of every place, thing, and being. The power he wanted lay like a jewel at the bottom of a dry well. For magic consists in this, the true naming of a thing. So Curum Carmoruk had said to them once, their first night in the tower. He never repeated it, but Jed did not forget his words. Many a mage of great power, he said, has spent his whole life to find out the name of one single thing, one single lost or hidden name. And still the lists are not finished, nor will they be till the world's end. Listen, and you will see why. In the world under the sun, and in the other world that has no sun, there is much that has nothing to do with men and men's speech, and there are powers beyond our power. But magic, true magic, is worked only by those beings who speak the Hardic tongue of Earthsea, or the old speech from which it grew. That is the language dragons speak, and the language Segoi spoke, who made the islands of the world, and the language of our lays and songs, spells, enchantments, and invocations. Its words lie hidden and changed among our Hardic words. We call the foam on waves Sukian. That word is made from two words of the old speech, Suk, feather, and Inian, the sea. Feather of the sea is foam. But you cannot charm the foam, calling it Sukian. You must use its own true name in the old speech, which is Essa. Any witch knows a few of these words in the old speech, and a mage knows many. But there are many more, and some have been lost over the ages, and some have been hidden, and some are known only to dragons and to the old powers of earth, and some are known to no living creature, and no man could learn them all. For there is no end to language. Here is the reason. The sea's name is Aenean, well and good, but what we call the inmost sea has its own name, also in old speech. Since no thing has two true names, Inian can only mean all the sea except the inmost sea. And of course, it does not mean even that, for there are seas and bays and straits beyond counting that bear names of their own. So if some mage sea master were mad enough to try to lay a spell of storm or calm over all the ocean, his spell must say not only that word, Inian, but the name of every stretch and bit and part of the sea, through all the archipelago and all the outer reaches, and beyond to where names cease. Thus, that which gives us the power to work magic sets the limits of that power. A mage can control only what is near him, what he can name exactly and wholly. And this is well. If it were not so, the wickedness of the powerful or the folly of the wise would long ago have sought to change what cannot be changed, and equilibrium would fail. The unbalanced sea would overwhelm the islands where we perilously dwell, and in the old silence, all voices and all names would be lost. Jed thought long on those words, and they went deep in his understanding. Yet the majesty of the task could not make the work of that long year in the tower less hard and dry, and at the end of the year, Curum Carmoruk said to him, "You have made a good beginning, but no more. Wizards speak truth, and it was true that all the mastery of names that Jed had toiled to win that year was the mere start of what he must go on learning all his life, and he was let go from the Isolate Tower sooner than those who had come with him, for he had learned quicker, but that was all the praise he got. He walked south across the island, alone in the early winter, along townless, empty roads. As night came on, it rained. He set no charm to keep the rain off him, for the weather of Roke was in the hands of the master wind key, and might not be tampered with. He took shelter under a great pendic tree, and lying there, wrapped in his cloak, he thought of his old master, Ogion, who might still be in his autumn wanderings over the heights of Kant, sleeping out with leafless branches for a roof, and falling rain for house walls. That made Jed smile, for he found the thought of Ogion always a comfort to him. He fell asleep with a peaceful heart, there in the cold darkness of the whisper of water. At dawn, waking, he lifted his head. The rain had ceased. He saw, sheltered in the folds of his cloak, a little animal, curled up asleep, which had crept there for warmth. He wondered, seeing it, for it was a rare, strange beast, an Otok. That's all for tonight. Good night, River.